Good evening and welcome to the Trevor Roberts Talkfest podcast. Thank you for joining me tonight. Got my cup of coffee, excited to talk about The Bachelor, Joey season, episode 3. Great episode. Lots of Maria and Sydney drama. Fun episode, fun group dates with the tennis, with the talent show and the pageant. We got Jenn's one on one. And right before I was about to go on and do the live or do the podcast with you guys, I just thought I'd do a bit of research just to see what people were thinking. I really wanted to get what is the audience, what is X or the Twitterverse out there thinking about Sydney. I didn't get good vibes at all, but I wanted to just see what I could get. What was the general vibe? And I discovered that Ben and Ashley I have a podcast called Almost Famous. Excuse me. And Ashley I and her husband Jared are actually good friends with Sydney. And I was like, oh my God. Number one, I didn't know they had a podcast. Ashley, I don't know. I watched Ben's season. In fact, I think that might have been the very first season of Bachelor I watched, which tells you when I started. It hasn't been that long. Maybe, I think he was 2016 ish. But Ashley I just like crushes it on Paradise with all the crying. Um, I just I think Bachelor in Paradise is what really hooked me, and Ashley I is one of my favorite all-time contestants. So I don't know a lot about her husband Jared. I don't think I saw whatever season he was on. Um, and I don't think that they ended up together on Bachelor in Paradise, but I've seen a little bit more of Jared over the years. Love him too. Ashley I though, just her personality, the way she talks, the way she like gets involved in drama but yet is still likable. She's just always been a favorite of mine. And so, knowing that they're friends with Sydney and they were probably going to defend her, I just thought I have to check this out. It was only about 47 minutes. They posted it last night. So they must have like watched the episode, immediately recorded it, and then got it out there. So that was pretty cool. But just to hear the insight of them being friends with Sydney and hearing some of what Sydney shared before even the episode was aired was pretty cool. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I think what I want to do is just run through the episode from start to finish, and then we'll go back and talk a little bit more about the Almost Famous podcast, about what Ben and Ashley, and then Jared popped on at the end and gave his thoughts too. So let's jump into the group date. Mrs. Right, 4 women from the Golden Bachelor show up. They call themselves the Askin Ladies, ASKN. I didn't watch the Golden Bachelor. Um, I'm a big fan of The Bachelor. Even bigger fan of Bachelor in Paradise. Golden Bachelor was a little too much for me. I think it was well received. Maybe I'll give it a shot. For right now, I'm okay, not really knowing what's going on there. I did see that right after the episode tonight, a wedding popped on from the Golden Bachelor and whoever he picked. They had the wedding in Palm Springs. Jessie Palmer comes on. The first thing he says is that he's there in person, but that his wife was like gonna deliver the baby possibly that evening, and so he might have to leave. I saw that the baby was delivered about 6 days later, so he probably didn't have to leave. But anyway, it looked like a great wedding. It looked like there was a ton of people from Bachelor Nation at the wedding, at the reception. So that's pretty cool. I might have to check it out a little bit more. Um, but the Bachelor ladies come and they're going to be judges or help Joey just kind of go through this pageant style group date. Now, at first, again, I think I talked about this with the wedding group date. It's not really my thing. And I shared that these group dates in the beginning, when there's so many women, it's hard for me to get super into it. I know what they're trying to do is just get people involved, give Joey just a little bit of information about the women. I think this date actually is pretty cool. From it, they got to go up there and answer a live Q&A in front of a live audience. Now that would be really hard from a contestant point of view. Like would not want to be the one doing it. But at the same time, Joey gets to see their authentic self show because they have to answer on the spot. And then there's a sort of a talent show. I don't have a talent. If I had to come up with something on the spot and do a talent, I would absolutely hate it. And Ben from the Almost Famous podcast, he actually gave a little insight into this and said, if you don't have a talent, if you don't know what to do, just do something funny. Try not to be negative about it. Nobody wants to be doing it. And I thought that was great advice. There are times, and you have to remember that this show is ultimately a competition. Like it's not quite set up like Survivor, especially when they make it around love, but really it's a game show, or it's a reality TV show where people are eliminated every week. And in order to actually have a chance to build an authentic relationship with the lead, you have to make it long enough. And in order to make it long enough, you have to just kind of play some cards and do some things to make it farther. I definitely, so I think in this setting, it's okay to just get by. Don't do anything bad to make it worse for yourself. So, really the big thing from here is just that like Sydney admitted to faking it. They tried to make it seem like people didn't like that. I'm pretty sure that I think it's a common thing for people to fake it, or women to fake it. I don't think it's rare. So when Sydney went up there and said she faked it, they tried to almost portray it like it's a bad thing. Maria even made a comment about it. I'm 1,000% team Maria, so I'm not against her at all. And of course, she's going to say something because she's against, like, she already has the feud with Sydney. So it's just another, they probably probed her in the interview, like, got anything to say about that? And then she's like, yeah, I'm just going to say, like, you heard her. So she didn't really say much, but they're basically foreshadowing that we're going to get a lot of Sydney and Maria arguing here. Edwina does it perfect. She does a song during the talent show, and I thought it sounded horrible, but it was a hit. Everybody loved it. And maybe it's just that whole thing, like, she can't sing, she doesn't really have a talent, but just do something funny. Now, maybe it was actually good, and I'm not a somebody that should be choosing who should be a musician or an artist. Um, Sydney did the cheerleading. They made it seem like everyone hated it, and they were showing all the women just like total crickets, no one liking it. They made it seem like the audience hated it, like the Golden Bachelor ladies hated it. I certainly did hate it. I am not Team Sydney, and maybe it's just the edit that she's getting. I don't want to make it seem. I'm sure she's not having a great night, a great week, a great couple of weeks, because it does seem like Bachelor Nation fans, everybody's coming for her. Like, what? Why are you doing all this drama? People like Maria. I don't want to be like bringing down Sydney, but just specifically talking about the cheerleading thing, it just didn't come off well. And again, maybe it was the edit, but it didn't look good. Maria does like just like some flips and some dancing, and they basically were doing voiceovers during it, so it wasn't like Maria's was anything crazy. Lexi does the kissing thing. She says she's the world's best kisser, and then she wants to test it out and kiss Joey in front of all the other contestants. I like Lexi a lot. I don't like it when the lead kisses any one of the contestants in front of all the other women. Like, if I was not the I think if I was the lead, I would feel bad. If I was the one kissing the lead, you basically know that you're doing it to steal the attention, to make it a thing. Like, it's your move that you're playing to get more screen time, to make it to the next week, to whatever. And you're going to make a lot of people, the other women, not like you. So I wouldn't like it. If you're one of the other women, you're not going to want to watch it. Nobody would want to watch that. So I don't think it was a great move. Joey ends up giving Lexi, like, she wins the pageant. And a lot of the other women, of course, feel like Joey just rewarded someone that kissed him. And a lot of the other women put a lot of effort into their talents, and they felt like Joey just rewarded someone who didn't know what to do and just kind of went up there and kissed him, which I think is exactly what happened. Um, but at the same time, Lexi did talk about how uncomfortable it was, how you're being put on the spot. You have to answer questions. You don't know what the question's going to be. You have to do a talent. If she ends up doing the kissing thing, she probably was like, okay, what am I going to do? I don't know what to do. I don't feel comfortable with this. And so I do think, like, if I was in any of their shoes, I would be very uncomfortable. And they all deserve praise for going through an uncomfortable thing. But I do think you probably want to pick the winner being somebody that put a lot of effort in, not even somebody with the best talent, just somebody that put a lot of effort into it. I mean, as much as I thought Sydney's cheerleading thing was cringe, she definitely put effort out. Like, she did a real routine that she made up on the spot. And again, it was cringe, but there was way more effort there than the kissing. So that's all I'll say. Um, they do go to Maria, and okay, well, sorry, let me backtrack. They let's go to we're going to the dinner portion of the group date. So Maria looks gorgeous. Her outfit's amazing. She talks to him about the talent show. She committed to it. He got to see more of her personality. He doesn't show as much excitement as he probably should. He needs to find someone that is comfortable with his blandness. Okay, so I thought this was really cool and insightful of Joey. He basically comes out and says, "Hey, I think you're awesome, Maria." And he's said in the past that she keeps him on his toes, and he clearly, I can just picture this in real life. I'm a confident person. I just have to, for my work and for basically my whole life, been forced into these situations where I have to talk to someone I've never met. And it's men, women of all ages, beautiful people, people that are intimidating, both men and women, people that like do keep you on your toes. And every once in a while, there's somebody that they just have, like, they just know themselves and they just are intense. And it's kind of like fun, but yet exhausting to be around them, where it's like, oh, I never know what I'm going to get with you. And it's like, you really do. It's like so perfect when he says, she keeps him on his toes, because he doesn't know like what she's going to do, what she's going to say. She's so confident. She's so articulate. She's quick witted. It's almost like her brain is moving fast. And whenever she's talking, we're only seeing little bits, little clips of what their conversation is, and she's so quick and she knows exactly where she's going. Like, sometimes I have to think and process, and then it comes out. It doesn't seem like she has to think for very long. And so Joey's a little bit more slow, and Joey doesn't show a lot of reaction. Evan and Jess from Your Mom and Dad podcast have said repeatedly that he, the women all come out of the limo. You get nothing from Joey. You don't know how much he likes them. And then they're going on the group dates, and the one-on-one with Daisy, you get a little bit. But as he's having the one-on-one conversations through the rose ceremonies and the cocktails, not the rose ceremony, but the cocktail before the rose ceremony, or the dinner portions of group dates when he gets one-on-one time, you're just not getting a lot out of Joey. And he says to her, he doesn't he he needs to find someone that is comfortable with his blandness. So basically, like, let's say I'm at the end and I'm with my person and we're sitting on the couch at home, sometimes I'm not going to give you a lot. It's just, I'm bland, I'm calm, I'm thinking, I'm reflecting. And it's not all going to be fun and games like this show in real life after this is over. And I need someone that's just comfortable with the homebody, down to earth Joey. And obviously, like, he can surf, he can play tennis, he can play football. He was like basically doing whatever with Jessie Palmer. And he's just incredibly cool. He's into sports. He seems like the guy that's good at everything he picks up. So there's going to be times where Joey's fun and obviously a go-getter and going to get out. Like, he trains people how to play a sport for a living. So he certainly has energy and gets out and does stuff. But he also is basically saying, I have a bland, boring, calm, just like to chill side of him. And I think he questions if Maria's okay with that. She says she is. She says she's committed. She wants to see more of his personality. But that's just been a theme too, is he keeps saying every time he's around her, like, I want to know more about you. And she's almost keeping it very surface level, like leave him wanting more. So I thought they had a great interaction. Medina and Joey, so Joey really pushed her to share what it was that made her feel uncomfortable. I did feel like Medina tried. She genuinely tried to be like, I want to use this time to connect with you. And Joey was like, well, if you're feeling comfortable, I want a safe space. And Medina explained that there's a situation, she felt like she was being bullied. Joey got really upset, and I didn't know how much more of their conversation happened that we didn't get to see, and if it was all just made about the bullying. But that's the catalyst for the whole drama of last week and this week. Is that Medina felt bullied over the silliest little. I don't want to call her feeling bullied about her age being silly, but what's silly about it is that it's been resolved between Medina and Maria. They are good with it, and Medina wants to move on. I think it's silly that Sydney just is using that as like, I hate Maria. Let's get rid of Maria. All right, but we'll talk more about that later. So Kelsey A gets the group date rose. It definitely felt like we didn't see a lot of it, but that Joey must have felt a connection with Kelsey A. What really stood out to me was the Sydney Maria stuff. Um, Joey surprised me with who he gave the group date roses to on both of them, and I kept thinking like, why did they get the group date rose as opposed to? I mean, there was multiple people I thought could have got it on both dates, and I wouldn't have picked either of the ones. And it's not because I didn't like them. I think it's just because they didn't show us a lot of their conversation, and I didn't feel like we even really got to know Kelsey A or Caitlin. Okay, so Maria and Sydney stuff is painful to watch. Yeah, it just was so cringy and painful. Um, we hear from Allison and Edwina multiple times that they don't think they don't think Maria is being a bully. Um, let's see. Maria, and then we get cut to Maria and Medina. They resolve it. Edwina says she's not a bully. So again, we're going to talk more about this at the end. I just don't want to skip over it as I'm going through it. Like the whole episode is just constantly revolving around Sydney and Maria. But let's go to Jenn's one-on-one date. So Jenn, I'm going to talk at the end who my top four is, but Jenn is definitely top four for me. I think there is a very good chance that she gets to go to hometowns and we meet her family. Which she talks a little bit at the dinner portion of the date about her relationship with her dad. And so it would be really interesting now that she's talked a little bit about her family to get to meet them, to get to meet her family. But in the beginning, she's clearly intimidated by the surfing, and Ben actually from the Almost Famous podcast shared an insight that it's sort of an unspoken rule during the fun activity portion of the one-on-one dates that you can't really talk about a lot of intense or important stuff. It's sort of just forced flirting, and it would be a little awkward. And Ashley I talked about how she didn't really feel like they connected during this part. I was totally in agreement with that. Like, it's almost been this mini roller coaster with how I feel like Joey and Jenn are, because she comes out on the go-kart. She clearly makes a big impression. They've had just a little bit of interaction in the last couple of episodes that made me think like, oh yeah, she's doing well. Then she gets the one-on-one date. Joey gets to pick that. They come out and do the surfing, and it doesn't look that exciting, or at least what we get to see. It doesn't look like it doesn't look like they're having a bad time, but it doesn't look like they're falling in love by any means. We just basically see Joey showing her how to surf, and she keeps falling off, face planting in the water. She's not, I mean, if she does get it, they don't end up showing it. And, why would she, like, this is her one and only first time learning how to surf. You're probably not going to be a pro by the end of it. Um, but then we see them kissing a whole bunch, and it's like I said, it's sort of just forced. Like there's not much to say yet. But what is cool is at the dinner portion, they had a fun, like they did something fun. It was beautiful. She did learn how to surf. It would be a cool experience. Maybe the second time you try it, you get a little bit better at it. You laugh a little bit about her falling off, like it gives them something to talk about at least. Then she opens up and we hear about her family. So she says that her parents are fighting all the time. They didn't hide it. It was a traumatic place growing up. She felt a little bit doomed for failure. Dad slept in the basement for a number of years. They were separated but still living together. Always felt unwanted by her dad, and now her dad's not a part of her life at all. Joey says that he can't imagine not having his own father to go to as a resource, as someone to look up to, as to get advice from. And Jenn can see what a genuine good person he is. And she says she's ready for a serious commitment. So I think this is really big to share. You have to think you're sharing it on national TV. She's saying that he's not a part of her life anymore, but, a lot of people in her life maybe didn't know this. Maybe like close people in her life did, but maybe extended family, like I have a bunch of family stuff that is all good for the most part, but there's stuff. Every family has stuff. Like there's stuff that, like, maybe it's one thing. Maybe it's like something that happened 10 years ago and it happened once and I remember it. Maybe it made a lasting impact on me, right? But maybe like the next day everything was resolved and you're on good terms with this person, right? But it's like a memory that you haven't forgotten and it kind of sticks with you and something could bring it up to light, and then you go on national TV on The Bachelor and you just happen to be like, oh yeah, this one time so and so in my family did this and it hurt me. Well, now it seems like it's a really big thing, and obviously what she's talking about is a really big thing. But I guess what I want to say is like there's just there's a circle. There's like different layers. There's levels. I think levels is the best way to say that. She's gonna have an immediate group in her immediate circle that knows all of this. She even says though that she hasn't shared this with a lot of people. Like she hasn't shared this on a lot of dates. So she's gonna have an immediate group of people that know all the details. And like her mom, and if she has siblings and maybe she has some close grandparents or a couple close friends, then she's going to have like the next level that is like around her life enough to be aware of it. Like maybe they visited her house and her dad wasn't there or whatever. And then there's going to be layers of like coworkers that didn't know this at all, or maybe like third cousins that didn't know this. Like next time she goes to a wedding, there's going to be people at the wedding that didn't know any of this, that now it's like the whole family knows. Everybody knows. This is a topic. Like people are talking about it when she's not in the room. And it's just, this happens on the show all the time. People use their one on one times to share something about their personal situation. I think it's a good thing to do. I think it's good for her to share with Joey a part of her to help him understand something hard she's going through, or she's gone through. But I do think it's just a big deal. Like I think sometimes we just breeze over like, no, if any of us were to go on live TV and share something huge like this, there would be almost forever consequences. And maybe consequences is not the right word, but it's like a ripple effect. Like you can never come back from the fact that you shared this on live TV. So I think it's huge. Hopefully, it happens every season. So hopefully it's all good. But I think it was a big deal. And I think Joey can certainly appreciate that it was a big thing for her to share. All right. So, second group date. they're doing tennis. Famous tennis players come, they train them. I'm sure they're training for a lot longer than we got to see. Um, Pretty soon, Jessie Palmer comes with a big blowhorn. He's so good in this episode. He's so good all the time. He's like my favorite. He's just the absolute best. But he comes in with the blowhorn. He's like, nah. And everybody just knows whenever Jesse comes, it's something's up, you know. And he's like, the Bachelor Open, and um, he just steals the show. Anytime Jesse is on the screen, I don't care about anything else. So essentially, the famous tennis players come. They're helping train. Basically, you know that they're going to train the girls, the women, how to play tennis enough that they can do a little Bachelor Open. Then they get paired up. They're wearing funny costumes. There's not a lot to share about it. It was funny. I really like the babies, and the slow motion. Autumn did like the cry baby. It was funny. Um, Caitlin in the later portion of the group date talks about her family curse. At first, I was like, "This is not good. Like, why would you go on there and say that all the women in my family are cursed?" It's just a little weird. I'm a weird guy. I'm all good with weird stuff. Very accepting of people's weirdness. And this is a weird thing to say. I was thinking like Joey's such a cool dude. I don't know that I would have gone with this, but at the same time, he says that she surprised him. It was really real. He loved it. She ends up getting the rose. So clearly, I'm way wrong. I don't know what I'm talking about. And she crushed it. She did seem really genuine. And her delivery, the way she communicated it, was so good. So at first I was like, nope, not a good idea. But she spins it around. Joey clearly loves it, helps him break the ice a little bit. He gets to know her. He's like, no way, like you shouldn't be single. Um, so it worked out really well. Rachel gets her earring stuck on his sweater. It was a very dumb and dumber moment. I thought it was funny. It just kept going on and on. It was so awkward. Um, Then she talked a lot about how her dad valued her mom. And it was very the opposite of Jen's story, where it was like how good her dad was, how gentle he was. It made me really think, like, I need to step it up as a husband. And I love those little gentle reminders. So I don't know if I think Rachel's top four, but I think he likes Rachel a lot. Daisy, not much to say about Daisy this episode, other than Daisy is definitely top four, and they're just way farther along than every other relationship. And it makes sense because Daisy got the one-on-one, but he's comfortable. There's no more awkwardness. They're totally past all of it. And the only thing I could say is like if he just doesn't spend time with Daisy because he's comfortable with her, you could see it deteriorating. Um, but it's just another level. She did show him the implant. Um, so not much to say there. They seem great. Caitlin gets the rose, and then we go to the pool party. So the pool party is basically a KFC commercial, and they really hyped up the KFC. It was hilarious. I don't really like KFC that much, but it is funny. And they had the giant Colonel like blow up dolls in the pool. That was funny. And there's just chicken everywhere. The fact that they all seem so genuinely excited for KFC was funny. I have no idea why. Like I couldn't figure it out, but I don't know. The little biscuits with the honey's pretty good. It's not the best chicken in the world. It's certainly not the best anything in the world. I don't know why, but no, it was just super funny. So we see a couple quick conversations, but the real meat and potatoes of the pool party is Sydney just takes it upon herself to tell Joey the story of Medina and Maria. And obviously she like whenever this happens in the past, at a rose ceremony, at a cocktail, at whatever, if you, I keep saying rose ceremony when really I mean the the cocktail party before the ceremony. But there's at this point there are 18 women. They all want a time with him so that they can hopefully make it to the next week, you know? And 3 got sent home. I don't think those 3 were going to stay, even if they got more time with him. But at the same time, plenty of women didn't get time with him and they did get a rose, but they weren't sure if they were going to get a rose. And so, whenever you take it upon yourself to go to the lead and say, hey, so and so, and you just tell the drama, they always cut the party right then and there. And then all these people don't get time. And then they all dislike you for the rest of the show. It's not a good idea. It's not a good move. You don't want to do it. Also, you have to kind of realize maybe it's impossible. Like, when I guess I'll finish my thought there. You need to realize if you're going to go up against another person in the house, is this a fan favorite? Because it's not a good look to be going after someone that everyone loves. And the audience loves Maria. Now, maybe it wasn't that way in the house. Maybe she thought the audience would hate Maria, but I don't know how she could have thought that. Anyway, just she basically is like, yeah, there was no alternative. I had to go up and tell him. There was nothing else to do. Like, Joey had to know. So, during her conversation with Joey, she portrays the story in a way that felt very different than what happened. She, number one, says that she just sat there and held her composure while Maria is like responding to what she said, which wasn't true. She, when her and Maria got into it, it didn't look like she was holding her composure. Now, you could argue that maybe Maria's not holding her composure, but Maria is just intense and she is straightforward. She's to the point and she talks quickly. And if you're ever having a debate or an argument in front of a lot of people, it's really like your body almost starts to, your fight or flight reflex starts to come on, and it's hard to think, and your adrenaline's going, and you're like, it's a really intense moment. And so people like raise their voice and they start talking faster. And they sometimes the flight comes in, like Sydney got up and was like, I have to leave. And I've done that, and so it's just no one wants to get involved or and you can see the other women looking around like they don't want to throw themselves in the ring, especially not with Maria, because Maria is so calm, cool, and collected. Like, she doesn't allow herself to get flustered in these moments. And personally, if I was Sydney, I would not want to go up against Maria at all. But again, she says she sat there holding her composure, and that just isn't true. So that was a lie. Then she says Joey, of course, thanks her for, feeling comfortable to share it with him, and he trusts Sydney. Um, then later we see Joey, he goes and gets Maria. They have their talk. It looks like there was a lot of Joey and Marie's conversation that we didn't get to see. But Maria says, she's confused. She doesn't know how to respond. She says, if you like Sydney, you couldn't really like me because we're two different people. I didn't think that was a good approach. Like, it's definitely possible to like two totally different people and be confused about, you're not sure. Like, you like things about Sydney, you like things about Maria. They're very different. You're trying to picture yourself at the end with either of them, and it's just a hard decision. I truly believe that any bachelor or bachelorette that goes through this process finds themselves at the end with two or three people and does not know what to do almost every time, because you're going to fall for these people and there's going to be qualities in them that are very different that you like, and you don't know which one to choose. So that's not the approach I would have gone with. It's almost like giving him an ultimatum too, even though it wasn't. It was similar to that. So I didn't like that. At the same time, I see where she's coming from. She just doesn't know what to say. Like, it's almost like the scene on the airplane from Anger Management when somebody comes up and says you need to calm down, and you're like, I am calm. Makes you seem like you're not calm. And so when somebody says Maria's being a bully, and then Joey has to go and talk to her about it, it's like she's like, "Well, I'm not being a bully, and this is stupid," and it makes her seem like she's not compassionate or she doesn't care. If you say you're confused, it makes you seem like you're being naive and you don't like this. Where is this coming from? When clearly she knows where it's coming from. There's just not a great way to handle being Maria in this situation. I think what she has going for her is that he really likes her a lot. Um, Also, she is very smart, and so she seemed to be able to come out of it much better than I would have been. But again, we don't get to see all of it. So the pool party gets cut short. They go to the rose ceremony. Three girls go home. They didn't get a lot of screen time. I think Evelyn might have been the one that dove over the table during the musical chairs. So that might have been her biggest kind of takeaway from the season. I liked her a lot, but it did seem like every rose ceremony, she just started crying like she didn't want to go home. And I wouldn't want to go home either. You give up a lot. You give up, your job, your lots of money to go on the show. So it's a big sacrifice. But I wouldn't probably cry. Like, it's not like her and Joey fell in love yet. So it's a little drama there. I would say that it's perfectly fine that there's no drama around those three women going home. Maria and Sydney both make it, so we're going to get more of this next week. I really dislike Sydney, and I'm not trying to pile on. I don't want to come for Sydney at all, but she just doesn't come across well in this episode. So maybe it's just what we see. But it seems like to me that Medina and it seems like the whole thing is just silly. Like Sid Maria was saying Medina's not that old. And Medina felt like you're not validating my insecurity. But, you know, in life, if I'm saying, hey, like, I'm feeling old, and a person who's kind of like my friend, who's been a friend to me, says, hey, you're not that old. I'm almost the same age as you. I'd actually be like, oh, thanks. Like, that makes me feel a little better. I wouldn't be like, oh, you're not validating my feelings. And then if that person was having a conversation with somebody else and they basically were just reiterating exactly what happened, and then a fourth person comes and tells me about it, I might be like, why? This doesn't make me feel good. They're talking about me behind my back. But then when I go and talk to the friend and say, hey, were you talking about me behind my back? And they were like, yeah, I was just explaining how you're not that old and how I'm the same age as you and how I think we should both be confident about it. I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, you seem like a real authentic person. And it seems like you were just reiterating what happened. And again, what happened wasn't bad. So, um, I just don't think Medina is mad at Maria. Then we do see him on the show. They actually like fist bump. They say they're good. So at this point, what do we know? We know that Medina is over it. And Maria didn't really do anything bad. It just got blown out of proportion because Sydney was making it a thing. Now, what also we know is that it's resolved. And Sydney is just not letting it go. She says Maria's a bully. She's bringing it up to Joey multiple times. The way she reiterated it to Joey did not feel like the way I saw it happen. It seemed like she was portraying it in a way that made Sydney look a lot better than it was. Really, it's Sydney like kicking this can down the or no, that's not a good analogy. It's Sydney stirring the pot, not letting this thing go away, being the fly in the soup, and telling Joey that it's really Maria. And Maria's like just sitting there being like, this is stupid. And so I feel like that's what we know. Um, I'm a little worried that Maria's going to get sent home because of all this. I don't know if I want to watch this show without Maria. So I'm hoping that's not what happens, but now I'm starting to feel more confident that Maria is going to make it a little bit longer. At the end of the show, we get Jessie Palmer floating around on the KFC Colonel floaty, practicing his lines. Never, I've never had a better Jessie Palmer moment than that. When he's like, "And ladies, it's the final rose tonight. Ladies, final rose tonight." And he's like, "Nah, too many words. It's the final rose tonight." And it's just like so funny. And then when he's like, "Ladies, if you didn't receive a rose, it's time to go." And then he just eventually gets to like kick rocks, beat it. It's like, and I mean, it's so true that like you're kind of like towards the end when you're top five and you're kicking out the fifth one, they're feeling they might be really sad for weeks. At this point, that's what I was saying with Evelyn. It's like they gave up a lot to be here, but they also got their 15 minutes of fame, and who knows what they could do with it. Like, if you get selected as a contestant on The Bachelor, you're getting all kinds of web articles about you. You're getting hopefully some screen time from your limo entrance. Like, you're getting a shot. You got selected out of probably hundreds of people that auditioned or applied to be on the show. So you can't feel that bad for these people. And these are people that are in week 3. I thought it was so funny. So it was not in poor taste to me, but okay. And then quickly, I just want to say top 4 at this point would be Daisy, definitely. Jenn, Lexi. We didn't talk a lot about Lexi this episode, but Lexi's the woman that might not be able to have kids. She did the kissing with him during the talent show. Seems like they just have had a really good connection. I think he likes Lexi a lot. She didn't get the rose, but she won the pageant, so she got to be like the winner of the pageant, wear the thing. Um, I think that there's no doubt that she's going to go very far. And then I'm throwing in Maria. If I had to guess, though, she's not top 3, and the only reason I would say that is I think that Maria might not. I mean, top 4 is tough. Like, I think Maria to me is someone that I don't want to say lust because I don't know if it's a sexual thing. I think he's very attracted to her, but I think it's almost like it's he's intrigued by her. He's fascinated by her. He's like not able to even be his true self right now because he's so on the edge of his seat, doesn't know what to expect from her. And that is so fun compared to all the other forced interactions that he has to have. I think when he gets bumped up with Maria for their time, he's like genuinely very excited about it. And that's just a thing that you can't control. It just happens organically. And I think he feels that hard for Maria. I don't know if he thinks that they are going to have a good love connection, though, because she hasn't opened up that much. He made the comment about his blandness and is she going to be all right with that? Probably because he doesn't feel that bland around her and he knows that that's a true part of himself. And we've heard him talk about on charity season that he sometimes is like a chameleon and he changes himself to fit what he thinks the other person wants. And then we heard his uncle talk about how Joey has a problem with doing that and how it's not a great thing. So, um, it makes me almost wonder if he can recognize that he's not being his true self around Maria. Doesn't mean that he couldn't be if they had a one-on-one and maybe broke through whatever they're feeling right now, which I think there might be an opportunity for a one-on-one with her. But I think that the more like it's almost like who do I want to go on a when I'm single, like on a date with? Maybe Maria would be at the top of the list. But who do I want to marry? I think Daisy's at the top of the list. And I think it's a very different thing. So I just don't know if Maria's going to make past top 4. Probably not. All right. Let's totally switch gears and talk a little bit about specifically Sydney and Maria on a deeper level. We're going to get some insight from the Ben and Ashley Almost Famous podcast. So, let's see. Okay. Okay. Ashley's defense of Sydney. So, again, give you a little background. Ashley helped Sydney get on the show was what I took from it, and they're close friends. And so what Sydney has been like comes home from the show and tells Ashley, I'm sure she's allowed like Ashley I is like come on The Bachelor in Paradise multiple times. I could see her making an appearance on a season of The Bachelorette or Bachelor as like somebody that helps with one of the group dates or whatever. I think I saw her in the background at the Golden Bachelor wedding, maybe. But she's involved in Bachelor Nation and she's got this podcast about the show too. So I'm sure that she's in the know on all things, and maybe she doesn't actually know who's going to be picked yet. But I think Sydney, she's not like the contestants when they go home. They're not supposed to talk about whatever. But I think she did go and share with Ashley. So Ashley's being very careful. You can tell when you listen to the podcast that she's trying hard not to share stuff she's not allowed to share. But what she does share is that Sydney is literally like comes home from the show before anything airs, and um, she's like, "This was my experience on the show," and Ashley, oh yeah, and Ashley's husband Jared is also good friends with Sydney, and so Sydney shares with Ashley and Jared her experience on the show, and they both kind of highlight that what they got from what Sydney said was that her experience on the show wasn't good. Now that they didn't come out and just say that, but that was sort of what I was able to get from what they were saying. Now, another kind of read between the lines of what Ashley was saying was that there's a lot of context missing. Ben kept saying, seems like all this drama is about nothing. Sydney is making it up. Um, and she either number one, she's a liar, or we just don't see what's being aired. Um, I don't think Ben's saying Sydney's a liar, but it does seem like it's something's not being aired. Um, Sydney says that Maria called her weird, stupid, embarrassing, and maybe other things. Like Sydney's calling Maria a name caller. We don't see that being aired. So, and that I think that's what Ben was saying when it's either Sydney's a liar and didn't do any name calling. There was no name calling by Maria, or we're just not seeing it aired. I tend to think it's more likely that it's just not being aired because, like, you really gonna lie on national TV? Um, but I don't know. Like, it makes a difference what the context is. Like, we just being like, well, Maria said you're weird, stupid, embarrassing. There's got to be context to that. Was she saying like this just feels weird, stupid, and embarrassing, and Sydney took that as like you're calling me those things? Who knows? Without it being aired, we just can't say. But what Ben saw was somebody being obsessed with causing conflict with Maria. Ashley and Jared said that in real life, Sydney's really cool, but she doesn't come across that way on the show. I definitely feel like Ben is right. That's what I was trying to say earlier is like, why is Sydney doing this? Medina and Maria are cool. It really wasn't a big deal. We all know no one's tried like Sydney's never tried to say that it's something else. Sydney says it's the age thing. And it's not, and I think we all can see that that's just silly. That it wasn't that big a deal. And like that's what Edwina and Allison are saying is it's being blown out of proportion. It's like Medina said she felt old. Yes, she should be able to feel that way, and we don't want to take anything away from her. But Maria wasn't dogging on her. She was like, "You're not old. I'm the same age, basically. We should be proud about being old." So, what Maria did, in my mind, not a big deal. She, if anything, was sticking up for Medina. And it just looked bad because she was telling the story to a person and Medina wasn't there to hear it. And so it gets blown out of proportion. It's like this game of hearsay that doesn't look good when Sydney spins it. And everyone is past it. And now Sydney is just obsessed with causing the conflict still. Like Sydney won't let it go. That's what Ben's saying. And it's so true. Another thing is Ashley and Jared definitely would have, like, they are very close. I think almost, I don't know if they're business partners, but they work together or have worked together or whatever. They know her really well. So they would have prepped her before she went on the show and been like, here's some advice, blah, blah, blah. Here's tips. And I don't know how they couldn't have not said, don't get involved in other people's drama. Don't be the hero of the show that needs to stick up for your friends because it's not going to work out well for you. And not only does she do it once, she does it this whole episode multiple times. She did it last week. Next week, it looks like there's a 2-on-1. So she clearly did it then. And it's just like, this is just ridiculous. And we saw multiple cuts of Sydney talking about it with random women in the house. Now, Ashley does point out that we're seeing Edwina and Allison, but we're not seeing anyone else. And she said that many times on her episode. And so, reading between the lines, Sydney, what I'm inferring from this, just my take, is that Sydney would have told Ashley and Jared that other women were on her side, were having her back. We don't really see that. Seems like the women don't care, and that Allison and Edwina are like, this is being blown out of proportion. So the cut that we're getting really makes it look bad for Sydney. I think Ashley's trying to point out that um, that's not really how it was. Maybe there was two sides of it. We do see that I think Leia is on Sydney's side, and maybe there's other women. Um, but Ashley says, she shouldn't have gotten the mix. Um, Ashley keeps saying it seems like nobody's bothered by it. Ashley tells Sydney after watching the show, "You're not a villain, you're annoying and cringy." But not like you're really annoying and cringy, but it comes across like you're annoying and cringy, and everyone wants you to be gone. When she says everyone, she means the audience. And before I listened to their podcast, like when I got done watching the episode, I was like thinking, yeah, I don't like Sydney. I don't want to see her. I wanted her to not get a rose this week bad. I just wanted it to be over so we could move on to other stuff. But at the same time, I think it's one of those things where subconsciously the drama is good. That's what makes the show watchable. You've got to have some drama. And there hasn't been a lot of drama this season, so this is really filling up a lot of that. At the same time, it's cringy and it's hard to watch. Like, it's not good drama. It just is over the silliest thing. So it's not looking great for Sydney. Then Jared, we get Jared. Ashley's husband Jared comes down. He says, um, I got the vibe that obviously Sydney does not win, and she ends up being the person that sticks up for her friends. Um, how many times have we seen this? He says, not letting something go, thinks someone is bad. He thinks Maria has been mean to some girls and has said some crappy things. So, what he was saying there is like, Sydney's, and again, he's sticking up for his friend here. And he has had actual conversations with Sydney where it seems like Sydney's portraying that we're not seeing the full context of the story. So when he says he thinks Maria's probably said some hurtful things, I think that's probably true. And Maria is, she's very bold, she's very blunt. She probably has said things that are mean. I don't doubt it. Or at least that could hurt someone's feelings. Maybe she doesn't think of them as mean, but I think she tells it how it is. And sometimes people don't like to hear how it is. And so that could be mean. And maybe Sydney feels like she needs to stand up for people because other people are afraid of Maria and Sydney's not. Jared says maybe Sydney was getting hyped up from the other cast members or producers. He just felt like the whole thing is annoying because he knows Sydney's a good person and this isn't a good edit for her. It's never good to be involved in the drama though. And it was interesting to hear Jared and Ben talk about um just how when they were not when Ben was the bachelor, but when they were both contestants, what they learned was just don't ever get involved in the drama. Like, and Ben even shared that there's so much drama going on that we always get it seen like the cut or the portrayal of the show makes it look like people got to stick up for the lead and go tell them what's really going on. But Ben kind of like shared that there's lots of producers and a lot of people telling the lead what's really going on. And so it makes me truly think that Joey knows what's really going on with Sydney and Maria. And maybe he doesn't at first. Like maybe when he sits down with them, he says, I don't really know what's going on. But I would imagine that like Jesse and the producers, like they do whatever they can to get cuts and to get a good story going. But in the end, that he's gonna find out, I think, what really is happening. Um, Ben said Sydney is going to get it right now, and he's talking about basically people trolling her. Like Sydney's already shown Ashley some mead comments. People are going on her Instagram and trolling her. I don't like that at all. I hate that. I hate like now she really is being bullied by audience members. Um, I don't even have Twitter. If I want to do a podcast, maybe I should get it. I just don't know if I can. I'm like, I don't know if I can do it. But trolling people on Instagram, not cool. So definitely don't do that. I mean, I would not be sad if Sydney got cut. But at the same time, like, Sydney's friends with Ashley and Jared. It looks like she owns a vintage store in Rhode Island. She's now been on The Bachelor. So, the old saying, like, there's no such thing as bad publicity. It's all good. I think, and Ben and Jared and Ashley all said that it might not be fun for the next couple of weeks, but eventually this will all blow over. Another thing Ashley pointed out is that oftentimes people get these cuts on Bachelor and Bachelorette, but then they go on Bachelor in Paradise and we get to know them a little bit more and all is forgotten and we love them. So hopefully that could be a true experience for Sydney. I certainly don't want her to be bullied, but it doesn't look good for her right now. I don't know why she cares so much about getting rid of Maria. I do think that if I was a contestant on the show and there was a dude with Maria's personality, it would be annoying. I wouldn't want, like, Maria, you just know as somebody sitting around the room with Maria that Maria's going to steal the spotlight. Joey's going to like her. She's going to steal the spotlight. She does seem like an heiress, like she's filthy rich. All of her dresses are the best. Her posture, the way she carries herself, how articulate she is. I mean, you're just sitting there thinking like, it's easy to kind of not like her, but really that stems from jealousy. And so you kind of just have to like allow yourself to just accept that you're an awesome person in your own way. If there was a guy version of that and I was also a contestant, I would have been like, I don't like this dude. Hopefully the lead doesn't either. I'm just going to run my own race. And that's what you got to do. All right. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching this. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks. Bye.